So you've probably noticed your newsfeed is full of polls and surveys. Facebook, Twitter, CNN. Even my mother calls me about polls occasionally. I'm Harry Enton.
And I'm Claire Malone. Harry and I follow polls for a living and political data in general. And welcome to the Millennials Guide to Polling.
Today we're going to help you understand how to take a closer look at the polls that bombard you every day. Because as you may already suspect, not all polls are created or presented equally.
I had suspected that.
Yeah, you should have that suspicion. Polls are a great way to look at public opinion during an election cycle. But think about it. If you want to know who's going to win an election, you really should figure out who's trying to vote. In reality, we'd like to know exactly who's going to vote, who the definite voters are. But that's not always easy to figure out, so we go with likely voters.
So a good electoral poll will survey a random sample of likely voters. Makes sense. But here's where we should remind everyone that all polls are conducted for a reason. Some are polls that are conducted by, let's say, newspapers, and they're really just trying to get a handle on what public opinion is.
Sure.
But then there are also private polls that are conducted by campaigns, right? So they're trying to get a grasp of public opinion, but they're also trying to figure out what motivates people. Suburban soccer moms might be differently motivated than, say, a millennial in the big city, such as yourself, Harry.
Let's not give away our age too quickly, Claire. I'm still trying to get into college. So it's very important that you consider the motive for the poll, right? Let's just give you a small little example. What if I told you that 9 of 10 adults, age 18 to 40, think hats are sexy?
I would be suspicious of that poll.
I would think that you would be suspicious of that poll. I'd probably be a little suspicious too, but I'm willing to try anything. But what if I told you that survey was commissioned by the Hat Manufacturers of America? How would you feel then?
I'd be even more suspicious.
You would probably have a pretty good reason to be suspicious, though I have been known to wear a hat, and some people find them sexy.
But enough about hats. Let's get back to electoral polling. Polls can really help us understand the atmosphere of an election, and that means what's motivating people at a particular time, how they feel about the state of the country, things like that. So how do polls do that? Well, a good electoral poll will survey a random sample of likely voters. And you want to survey more than a few people, most likely, but you don't have to survey a million people.
So not just my mom, but you don't have to survey a million moms.
Right, exactly. But you do need to make sure that you're not just getting white people in Iowa and Latino voters in LA. You're trying to get, a sample of everyone in the country who might be coming out to vote, right? It's like this. Imagine a pot of minestrone soup. It's sitting on the kitchen table at home, and you want to know what's in the soup. Thank you for closing your eyes. You take a spoon and you take a little taste off the top. Would you be getting a representative sample of what that soup is like?
It may be a delicious sample, but no, I wouldn't think it'd be representative.
It's probably just broth. You could eat spoon after spoon off the top of the soup, and you wouldn't have any clue what's going on in the bottom of the pot because it's minestrone and all the good stuff sinks to the bottom. But let's say that you stir the soup and then dunk a ladle in and scoop it out. Now, do you have a good assessment of what's in the pot of soup?
Yes, and I'm hungry.
Exactly. So you're getting a more representative sample of what's in the minestrone, and that's what a good poll is. It's a random group of people, and again, it doesn't have to be a million people, but it just has to be a well-mixed soup. The other thing that's important to remember with polls is the order of questions. Let's say that you're putting out a survey of bus riders, and you're sort of trying to figure out if they're happy with the system. But in the question before, are you happy with your bus riding experience? You ask them, would you be down for a new electric bus system? Now all our poll takers are thinking about the shiny new electric buses as they assess their overall satisfaction. And they might have a biased answer to the question. So you're leading the person in a certain path, and that's a no-no in polling.
Right. One of the things that's also very important is how those polls are presented to the public, right? It's very important that you understand what's going on and that the people who are presenting those polls do so in an unbiased manner.
Right. And polls are reported by partisan news outlets.
Sure.
They're also reported, again, by mainstream news organizations, the Washington Post, the New York Times. And then, it's the new millennia. People like Facebook and Twitter are getting in on the game.
Right. And, what's just so wonderful about polls is that we can aggregate all of those individual viewpoints into something more meaningful. A more collective viewpoint, you might say.
And surprise, surprise, the election is actually a poll itself.
That's right. It is a poll. It's the ultimate poll, you might say.
It's the perfect poll. That's it for this week's installment. We hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. I'm signing off as Claire Malone.
And I'm Harry Enton.